Bambiz presents Elder Law Growth, the podcast that helps elder law and estate planning attorneys attract clients without wasting time or money. I'm your host, Jim Blake. Let's dive in. Welcome to another episode of Elder Law Growth, the podcast where we explore powerful strategies to help elder law and estate planning attorneys grow their practices and reach more clients. I'm your host, Jim Blake, and today we're diving into a topic that's incredibly close to my heart: using books to build authority and expand your influence. Joining us today is Melanie Herschorn, an independent publisher, book marketing strategist, and founder of Big Impact Books. Melanie has an amazing background as a journalist and a publicist, and she's passionate about helping attorneys write, publish, and promote their books. Today, we're going to explore how publishing a book can be a game changer for your practice, and we'll even touch on how the story brand framework can help shape your message. Welcome to the podcast, Melanie.
Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. Well, as someone who's written a book myself, I know how transformative it can be. So my book, Unstoppable Growth, has helped us connect with more law firms, more estate planning and elder law attorneys, and establish an authority in the marketing space. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on why publishing a book is such a powerful tool for attorneys, and particularly those that are running the small, mid-size, and boutique law firms.
Well, I think you just answered your own question, honestly. No, I'm serious, though. It is such a great tool, not just for getting clients and retaining clients, but also for getting, new leads in terms of visibility and for getting on stages, if that's something that you desire. I like to say that it's for impact, influence, and income, the 3 I's. It makes it easy to remember. And when you have a book, it really opens doors and it just instantly establishes you as an expert in your service practice area.
For sure. And then that's one of the things I've noticed is a lot of the attorneys who have the most successful practices are doing the most successful workshops that we're working with on a day-to-day basis. They often have a book. I don't know if that's just random or if that's planned or if that's something that you've seen as well. But, from your perspective, how can attorneys leverage their books for marketing and opportunities and, to help grow their practices?
The books that we help attorneys write, before you even put pen to paper, the first thing we're looking at is the end. And it's, what are you writing this book to achieve? Why write this book? And in general, this is the best marketing tool you're ever going to have, because now that you've put pen to paper, you're publishing this book, you have a physical, something tangible that you can give to people. It's also a treasure trove of content for your marketing. So you never really have to rethink this again. You just get to keep repeating what's already in the book, because you as a marketing expert know it can take 7 touch points for your message to get seen, but we're really at more like 20 at this point in this day and age. So if you can give somebody your book, they're going to keep it on their nightstand, because that's where most of us keep books, because we say, okay, well, I'm going to read it before I go to bed. Even if they never pick it up, they're seeing your name every day. And when they decide, today's the day that I need to hire an estate planning attorney, they're going to call you, even if they haven't cracked open the book.
And I think that's really important too. Like for the example I was saying, where like these attorneys that have the workshops and the ones that are getting a lot of appointments all the time and they have the book. Yeah. Do the people that go to the workshop probably read the book? Yeah. I mean, a subset of them obviously do read the book. I know I read books, so I'm a book reader. If people give me a book, there's a chance at least I'm skimming through the book to see if I want to read the whole book. But yeah, having that on their bookshelf and you being like the only estate planning or elder law attorney that has a book on their bookshelf over time, and after they clear the dust off it, maybe one day, if they haven't already retained you, I feel like that's going to be a big game changer and help you do that.
Absolutely. And the book itself, just by virtue of the fact that you've published a book, you are now an expert, because guess what? You wrote the book on elder law. You wrote the book on estate planning.
Yeah, and in our cases, lots of that is like in their local area. So not only did you write a book on estate planning, you wrote a book on estate planning in Jacksonville, Florida, or wherever you're at. And so you're an expert in your local community as well. So that's really cool. The thing that I personally had an issue with. And then obviously a lot of the lawyers that I talk to, they have this perception that like it's a little difficult or time consuming. How do you combat that negative
Well, I
start?
get my sword and my shield and um, I say yes. And you've heard this phrase, how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. And yeah, if you look at it and you say, well, I got to write a book, but I also have billable hours and I also have a family and I also have, parents I have to take care of or children or whatever. I like to golf. Whatever it is absolutely doable. And I speak from my own experience. You have to know what kind of writer you are. First of all, if you're the kind of person who can do 30 minutes a day, you're going to have a book in no time. And if you're the kind of person who likes to go sit at a Starbucks for 6 hours and only take one bathroom break, that's me, then you'll do that a couple weekends and you will have at least a rough draft of a book. And so when people do say, well, what about my billable hours? It's eating into them. I will say, not really, because you can then take this book and leverage it to get you way more business in the long run. Because imagine writing this book, publishing it, and then sending it out to 5 ideal prospects, and every one of them hires you. And then you're like, for 3 billable hours, this is what I passed up.
Right. No, I totally agree. I mean, it's just been a game changer. We released our book back in May, and yeah, just having that book out there, I think it just when you tell people or they see it on the table when we go to sponsor events and stuff, I mean, it makes the conversations go in a completely different direction than not having it. And they haven't even read the book, right? It could have 200 blank pages in there, for all that's
Totally could. That happened. We ordered a book. I ordered a book for my husband from Amazon and it came with about 60 blank pages. Can
no
happen.
take no taking pages. There you go.
Yeah.
I know when you had reached out to me, you had mentioned story brand. So basically, I wanted to see like how do you see story brand framework fitting into the stories that these attorneys could be telling in their books, in their novels?
That's interesting because I didn't say story brand. I am not a story brand accredited anything. I said storytelling, but I
Yeah.
do love Donald Miller and all the story brand things. So if we're going to talk about story brand, that's the idea of making the reader the hero in the story or the client the hero in the story. And I really believe that storytelling as a whole is vital to make a book come alive. I had a client recently, we got the first draft. And I said to him, you are amazing. This is a workbook. This is literally a how-to book that does not need to be bound with a cover. We need story here. We need to learn more about you. We need to learn more about your passion, your why, the reason that you do this in the first place. And so he went back to the drawing board and he started, and I was able to say, put a story here, put a story there. Start this chapter with a story. And now it's a book. And that really makes such a difference.
Yeah, yeah. We're not like story brand quote unquote certified as well. I just really like the book, right?
Yeah.
I know that there's other versions of that hero's journey that some people call it and things like that
Yeah.
that are out there in the world. I think he's packaged it in a really nice, easy to understand
He's a
format. Obviously,
marketer's marketer, that
he's a
guy.
marketer. Exactly. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, that's the thing, right? Like if I'm reading the book, right? If I'm reading your estate planning book, I want to feel like you're relating to me and like what I'm going through and like not how great you are, right? And how I need to hire your law firm, but like if I'm dealing with these X, Y, and Z, like I want you to be the one that takes me on that journey with you. And I think that like that knowing that going into when you're writing it so that like when you're writing it you're not just talking about like all the wonderful degrees you have and where you went to school and all those different things. It's more of this is yeah, maybe I have these things but like that really doesn't matter. What matters the most is we're helping thousands of families in our community and like this is how we're doing it and this is how we can do it for you too. Or if you don't want to do it, you want to read the book and you want to do it yourself, like that's fine as well, but we're here if you need us. I think that storytelling process is a good one.
It absolutely is because when you think about it, people have so much noise coming at them every single day online and in at work. And so you really only have a few seconds to get their attention. And the first thing and only thing they're thinking is what's in it for me. So if you can serve them with what's in it for them in a book, you're going to have them.
Now, you had mentioned like sales isn't the overall goal. What would you say? They
No.
make the book, they publish the book, they have hundreds of copies now at their office. What is the goal? How do they distribute those? are people going to just go to their website, want to buy the book? Are they going to become a bestseller on Amazon? Like, what are the proper expectations?
We don't get rich on book sales unless our name is Stephen King. And I don't think he's listening. And so, because of that, when we're publishing a book, we're looking at what are the overall goals. And so, how do you make money? By giving the book away or selling it at its, nominal fee on Amazon. You may make $7 per copy, but that's okay, because if you think of the greater return when somebody hires you. Also, if you now have a book and you decide that you really want to do speaking engagements, all of a sudden you've opened up stages for yourself that don't exist for people who are not authors. And you can always say, hey, I'd like you to buy 300 copies of my book so that you can distribute it to the audience when I speak. And I've had clients do that, and it works beautifully.
That's really awesome. I mean, in addition to that, if somebody's ready to start writing, what other, what are like top 3 tips that would help them like make an impact, maybe generate income, from those sales or outside areas, and then just increase their influence altogether? They're ready to put the pen to the paper, but
Okay.
they haven't done it yet.
One thing that I love to do is help people outline the book, because once you have an outline, it is so much easier to plug and play. So I would say, figure out what your outline is. What do you want to say, and what is your overall goal of the book? Then once you have that book, start sharing on your social media, start sharing with your email, start sharing when you go to networking meetings. Attorneys are wonderful at being in networking meetings. You're always networking. So start sharing that you have a book. Send it to colleagues, ask them to share it out. Send it to potential clients. They're going to go, wow, my attorney or my soon to be attorney wrote a book. That's amazing. I really need to read it and hire you. So as long as you're talking about it, because it seems silly, you didn't go to law school to be a marketer, but you really are your best marketer.
No, for sure. That is one thing that they definitely need to be thinking about, is like, how do I market this book so that it at the end of the day, this podcast is called Elder Law Growth. How do I grow? How does my firm grow? And with that being said, do attorneys need to worry about getting a big publishing deal? Can they go the self-publishing route? What kind of misconceptions do you see in the publishing area?
There is a lot of predatory behavior in the publishing industry. Even though I knew about it, I still fell prey to it before I published my own book. There are a lot of people who will promise you the world and deliver, maybe like a pebble of sand. Now, of course, I'm a little biased because I do help attorneys independently publish, which is basically self-publishing under their own imprint. So I will say that I have had clients who insisted that traditional publishing was the only way they were going to go. And what we saw was, yeah, they get a small advance, but then they have to wait. And you could be waiting, 14, 18 months to publish a book that you're ready to have published now. And you also don't have the creative control. So when I work with attorneys, the goal is for you to have complete creative control over your own book. You get to decide what the cover looks like. Of course, within reason, I'm going to give suggestions if I think, maybe Gothic isn't the look for estate planning. But in general, this gives you that creative control. You get all the royalties and you get it done. We get it done within 6 months to a year.
If you were coaching an elder law and estate planning firm right now on creating their ideal book, how would you structure that book?
What's the low-hanging fruit? Let's just start there. What are the 10 questions that you keep repeating on every sales call? That could be 10 chapters. Because not only do you have to fill in stories about clients, of course, we change the pertinent information so nobody can say, hey, that's me. But you have stories of clients that you can fill in. You have stories of your own expertise that you can fill in. You have statistics you can fill in. And oh my gosh, we just wrote a book. We just wrote it.
I'm gonna kind of dig into that a little bit, because
Sure.
one of the things that we always see on our side is like, we do the marketing, so lots of lead generation and that type of things for these
Mhm.
firms.
Yeah.
And one of the things is repurposing, right? So, like you said, what are the top 10 frequently asked questions, or should ask questions, is what we sometimes say when a firm is about to hire you or thinking about hiring you, or they come to an event, they're raising their hand and asking the question. And take those, compile those, and make those what we call like lead magnets, right? So things that they're going to be giving away on their website. At the end of the day, really, each one of these chapters of the book could be its own lead magnet, right? And so
Yeah.
you're going to be able to create a massive book that's going to have the opportunity to turn into all your lead magnets. It's going to basically be your website copy. It's going to be your advertising. When people come in for different services and things that you're offering at your law firm, each one of those could be its own part of the book. So you're actually, killing like 10 birds with one stone, doing this. And when I created Unstoppable Growth, it was not a hard thing for me to personally do. I know I'm coming from the marketing side of it instead of the legal side of it, but I already had all of the material. I had the material from webinars that I posted in the past, from speeches that I've given into the, community or into the marketing space, from just one-on-one sales conversations or coaching conversations that I've already had with attorneys. So aggregating all of that information that I already had and then compiling it and editing it and using copy editors and things like that to get it into the book. It's easier than you think because you've probably already created your book, is what I'm trying to say in a nutshell.
Yeah, and
What are
you
your
said
thoughts on
it.
that?
Yes, exactly. I mean, how many attorneys have wonderful marketing companies they work with that write blogs for them all the time? Maybe the blog isn't in your words, but you could take it and run with it. And, if you have 10 blog posts, there's the start of 10 chapters. We're never reinventing the wheel. So I think that's ultimately what you're saying is not only are you not reinventing the wheel, but then you get to repurpose forevermore. And you're going to make your digital marketing company very happy with you.
And what's your thoughts on this? I just totally going off the rails here, but like a lot of the attorneys we work with, they do seminars. So they do, they'll have a seminar a couple times a month. They'll do an hour and a half presentation at the seminar. That's where they get a lot of their clients. And now I'm just spitballing this because I think it's a great idea in my mind.
Bring it on. Yeah.
What about we record that seminar, right? That's a
Mhm.
recorded seminar. That's the attorney's content they've already created. They've created the presentation. They're going through all the stories, how they help people, why it's important, calls to action, the whole thing in the seminar.
It's definitely part of a book. It's probably not the whole book because the difference, the way we talk and the way we write for books is different. So but it's absolutely the same idea because it's their content, it's their intellectual property. So that is such a great plan. Start there. Absolutely.
And so do you help the attorneys dig into like that existing content to expand upon it?
Absolutely.
Or is it their responsibility to kind of like expand upon different pieces of content?
Well, yes and no. Both. When I work with attorneys, what we're doing is we're really taking them through the entire writing process. So while I'm not writing for you, I am not a ghostwriter. I am helping you create the book. So you may come to me and say, I've got this and I've got that, but I don't know what to do. So we'll look through it and we'll say, well, this goes here and this goes here. It's like a puzzle. The pieces exist, but it has to be put in the right way so that you can actually see what the picture's supposed to be.
Can I be a little controversial?
Always.
Thoughts on AI?
As a marketer, I love AI because it makes my life easier when I'm having to rewrite things I already wrote. When it comes to books, I say no because I think the rules are something like if your book has more than 10% AI, you can't even publish it on either of the platforms. So you want your book to have a chance. We also don't know whose knowledge has been culled from somewhere and it's not really yours. So I would say, with marketing, if you are stuck and you can't seem to write a blog post, then go ahead. But when it comes to your book, it's much better to be coming from your wonderful brain. And as an attorney, you have a wonderful brain.
And yeah, so let's dig into that a little bit more. So there's one thing to say, like, write me a book about estate planning.
Right.
And letting AI go and create some strange hallucinated version of an estate planning book. And I would say there's another version of that that says the attorney talks and dictates a book to AI using their own language experiences, blah, 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 right? So that say they talked to AI for 6 hours or something silly, right? Something silly.
Okay.
And now AI's restructuring their exact words into like a logical format to create a book. Is that changed your answer to that?
Morally speaking, I feel like if you just talk and then you have AI put it how it sounds like it should be best. I don't know that I really think there's value in humans helping humans. I am not the judge and jury. So if that's something that makes you happy, then I say, okay. But for me, when, I'm working on a new book right now, and when it came to laying it out, I didn't turn to AI at all. I turned to my brain and I thought to myself, what do people need to know? And I just feverishly started writing.
Yeah, the strange thing, I mean, I go to a lot of industry events and marketing events and business events, and I mean, AI is changing everything more and more and more by the minute. So I know that this is a big thing, and not only probably writing books in the publishing world as it is, creating content and even legal, right? Like a lot of the law firms that we work with are dealing with that right now. Some people are using it to write documents for clients and things like that. So it's definitely a crazy next few years of dealing with
Yeah,
it.
it's the wild west of AI right now. So we'll have to meet up again in a few years when we get the answers to the questions.
So awesome. Well, I'm excited about these insights. Obviously, I know how important it is to publish a book and how it can be leveraged. And your insights and everything have been very valuable. For those that are listening to today's podcast, where can they find more information about your work? And if they want to get started, and I'll put this information in the show notes as well so they can check that out there.
Thank you. Well, you can head to yourbigimpactbook.com, and everything's there. I would love to talk with you and talk about how to outline your book, because I think that once you have that piece, it feels a lot less daunting.
Yeah, and I will say, when you actually get that first book in your hands from the printer, it's a pretty rewarding feeling. So you can't describe it. People are like, you should write this in a book, right? And you get the book, you're like, yeah, I should have done this like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. But it is exciting. So thanks so much for sharing your expertise with us today and sharing with our listeners how powerful of a tool having a book can be for their practice. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into Elder Law Growth. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and we'll be back soon with more strategies to help your law firm thrive. Thanks for listening.
That's a wrap on another episode of the Elder Law Growth Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things marketing for elder law and estate planning law firms. Here you can find all of the tools and skills you need to market your own practice without wasting your time. If you like this podcast, please leave us a review wherever you're listening. And if you're ready to take the pressure off and let our team handle your marketing, visit Bambiz.net and book a free call with us today.